Welcome back to another mini-series episode of Intuition Nutrition. This is Shirley Plant, who I'm talking to. I'm really excited to have her on today because she's a nutrition coach, but she specializes in helping people with food allergies. Shirley, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to be here.
Such a treat. Now, can you explain to us how you got into this specialty? Because it is very much, narrow specialty. So it must mean something to you.
It is, and it's funny when people ask me that question because really it came about for selfish reasons. I had so many food allergies and food intolerances that I just really didn't know what to eat anymore. So I got into the kitchen and tried to figure out old recipes that I still wanted to make with substitutes. And I came up with new recipes because I was tired of eating the same old, rice cake. And that's really how it developed because I had been so ill. I had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and environmental allergies and food allergies. And you get sort of into a bit of a rut. And so I just thought, well, I know there's other people out there like me. And I was at the time seeing an environmental doctor in Ottawa who said to me, because I would take her food when I went for my appointments, and I'd say, what do you think of this? Because she had a lot of food intolerances. And I'd say, what do you think of this? And what about this? And she said, these are really good. And, it took me a while to get there. Threw out a lot of food. But I finally got there, and she said, why don't you put them together and make a cookbook, make a recipe book? And, and she said, like a helpful guide, a dietary guide. And so I did. I put them all together, and then I wanted it to be more than a cookbook. I wanted people to be able to have a real resource when they found out that they couldn't eat certain foods. I wanted people to know that there was lots of options, that there's still lots of foods out there that you can't eat. And so really that's how it all came about. And then finally Food I Can Eat came to be, which was great.
I was just going to say, and the title is perfect. Finally, Food I Can Eat. And
it's so true. Yeah. Because that's really how I felt. And, it was like, finally, food I can make for myself. And food I can make for my friends, my families, my guests. That was part of the problem, that at holiday times or if I had people over, I was always making separate meals, separate desserts, one's for me, one's, normal for them, different for me. And nobody wants to be set out or different. Right. And so I wanted to come up with recipes that everybody would like. And that's been, I think, the most rewarding thing about putting together my cookbook, because I get emails from people who will say, I bought this for my daughter, or I bought this for my sister because she has allergies and food intolerances. But I looked through it and I made some of your recipes and I don't have any allergies and I love the recipes. And I'm like, fantastic. This
fabulous.
Is great.
Yeah, because it's not just for people who can't eat certain things. I mean, why?
Yeah, it's just healthy food, right? It's about getting back to healthy food and knowing what substitutes are available if you can't have gluten or dairy or eggs, things like that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about that. It's for nuts. I mean, there's a lot of nuts in a lot of recipes these days, smoothies and desserts. And so, yeah.
And what are the options? And I did that at the back of the book. I put an index so that literally someone can turn to the back and look at the recipe and then, is it dairy-free, nut-free, egg-free? And there's little check marks. Because for me, this was years ago when I found out there wasn't that many cookbooks available. There certainly weren't the allergy foods that there are now. Wow. This was almost 30 years ago. And, I would buy a cookbook that I thought I could use, and it ended up I could use one or two of the recipes. And I thought, I don't want anyone to do that, to spend, $20 to get home. And it's like, so I put in that little handy dandy index at the back.
That's awesome. Yeah. So where can people find that cookbook? Do you have it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. So people can go onto Amazon, and it's, paperback, and you can get ebook version as well. You can come onto my site, deliciousalternatives.com. I've got lots of recipes there too for people that just want to try them and see what it's like.
That's awesome. I know I've checked out some of your recipes. They look delicious. What would you say is your all-time favorite recipe that you came up with?
Well, it's interesting. I just posted it. It's a chocolate, banana, coconut, hemp dessert, and it's sort of like a pudding, and yet it's decadent, but it's healthy because it's got the hemp seed in it, and people would never know that it's got hemp seed in it. So I have to say it's one of my favorite. And the other one is a sweet potato, gluten-free, dairy-free sweet potato muffin that I make. And I mean, as you can tell, I still have a sweet tooth.
What do you use instead of sugar, or do you use regular sugar?
Well, it's interesting. I try and use fruit as much as possible. Certainly for me, I've totally gotten off white sugar. I don't even have actually I have some white sugar in my house. The only reason I have it is in the summer I make the nectar for the hummingbirds outside.
Oh.
So if I'm going to use something, I use raw honey, or I'm in Canada, so we of course have lovely maple syrup. But I tend not to use too much. I tend to use bananas or apples or dates to sweeten, or sweet potato or squash. Because I just feel that so many of us are just consuming way too much sugar. And, I did it slowly. I always say to people, do it slowly, because sugar is addictive. So you need to do it slowly, and your taste buds will change. Trust me, because I've gone back and I've tasted something that's been made with white sugar or brown sugar or high fructose corn syrup. And to me, it almost tastes chemical.
Oh, yeah.
Like it doesn't, it's that sickly chemical sweet. So my taste buds have totally changed, and I love just using fruit in my baking now, and it works perfectly fine. You can do it, people. You can do it. Like I made last night I made my husband some pumpkin muffins, chocolate pumpkin muffins. So, I used almond flour, and if you can't do nuts, you can use a gluten-free flour or any flour that you want. Put in the pumpkin. And to sweeten it, I use like 2 dates, in the whole muffin recipe. And then I buy the dark, the 70% dark chocolate. And I just took pieces of that and put that in, because that's still got some sugar in it, right? And that's enough to sweeten with the pumpkin and the little bit of sugar in the pure dark chocolate. That's enough. And he's like, these are delicious. And I'm like, because he was such a sweet tooth guy when I met him. Wow. And I slowly weaned him down.
Well, that's great. See, just by living by example, you're helping your loved ones as well. And also, if you're the one who does the cooking, they don't have much of a choice.
Exactly. He has to eat it, right?
And what are some of the benefits you think he's had from all this?
Well, it's amazing, because in the last little bit, I've always been, in the last few years, I follow more of a paleo diet. And for me, it works. I had a lot of inflammation in my body with having fibromyalgia and, the autoimmune condition, and I'm celiac. So to me, that's what has worked. He wasn't quite ready to go that route. He didn't think he had any problems with gluten. He didn't think he had any problems with dairy. And I run a 21-day gluten, dairy, sugar-free challenge every November. And this year I said to him, why don't you join the challenge? And he said, well, okay. And he did the challenge, and it was amazing. He noticed that, I noticed he didn't snore as much at night. His nose wasn't as stuffy. He always has a stuffed nose. Things like, he has a bit of eczema. He's actually a kidney recipient. He had kidney disease in the past, so he's on anti-rejection drugs, which sort of give him a bit of acne and some other issues. And it was just amazing. He noticed that he had more energy when he went off gluten. So, he didn't have the tummy issues or anything like that I did. But so when you start to notice these things, and that you just feel he just felt a little clearer in his head too, a little bit more energy, not the stuffy nose. So now he's really trying to live the gluten-free, dairy-free way. And I mean, he doesn't do it all the time. He still loves his cheese, and he's, but, it's amazing when you take some foods out that you think may be playing a role in your diet, and you take them out 100%. I have people that say, well, every now and then I just don't eat gluten. Well, if you want to find out if gluten is really playing a role, you need to take it out 100%. And that's what we do in the challenge. And, I'm there to support people. And And so, yeah, he's really noticed a difference. He's lost, since we've sort of gone paleo and he's cut out gluten and bread and sugar, he's lost 12 pounds. And,
Wow.
he said, I didn't even have to work at it. He didn't have to go out. We exercise every day. We have dogs, so we walk our dogs. But other than that, we don't do crazy exercise or anything like that. And, he's just been thrilled with the results.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to just do it that way where you don't want it to be a job.
Right. You have to enjoy it.
You want it just to be life. And so that's been the beauty of it. And I think eventually, I have nieces and nephews. My sisters are older than I am. And I'm very lucky. I wasn't blessed with children, but I'm blessed with my nephews and my niece. And they're at that age now, in their late 20s, 30s. And all of a sudden they're noticing that these allergies that they've always had, these intolerances are really starting to bother them. And it's great for them to be able to call the aunt and say, help, what do I eat? And that's very funny. I say, I have this cookbook.
I love it.
It's kind of fun to be able, as you say, to help your loved ones as well as, the people out there. I love helping people figure out what you can eat.
Right. Oh, that's great. Well, let's say your website again for people to be able to go check it out.
DeliciousAlternatives.com, and you can find me on Facebook under Finally Food I Can Eat, and I'm always posting free recipes and helpful tips there as well.
That's great. Well, please, I hope you go check Shirley out. And Shirley Plant, that's your given name, Shirley Plant?
It is, just like a plant in the ground. It's perfect.
I know, it's so,
Maybe I should be planting trees, though. I don't know, but not food.
Well, it's like, I think some people are meant for the kind of job that they do because they were born that way. Like, I had a dentist once named Dr. Kenka. And here you are, a nutrition expert named Shirley Plant. I love it.
Right.
All right. Well, please check Shirley out and get her book because if you have any allergies at all, or even if you know people who do, this can really be helpful. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Shirley.
Thank you.
This has been such a pleasure. And everybody tune in. We've got some more interviews for you coming right up. All right. Take care.